Are the things in front of us real? Is reality something we experience or something we create? Let's take a deep dive and journey into the world of metaphysics. For centuries, philosophers have been fascinated by questions surrounding what is the nature of reality and what best describes our conscious experience. Is consciousness a manifestation of brain activity that we all have? Or is it something that's more ethereal and that which shapes our reality? Imagine the following. A group of people are chained deep within a dark and quiet cave. Their entire world is confined to shadows projected onto the wall in front of them. They have been there since their birth, unable to turn their heads to see the reality that is behind them. This description represents Plato's Allegory of the Cave, which provides a metaphor for his metaphysical ideas of what is the nature of reality. Here, Plato proposed to distinguish between the world in which we perceive through the evidence of our senses, as well as an ethereal higher realm of unchanging truths. Plato acknowledged that the physical world exists, but he argued that it was limited in terms of our ability to describe reality. Rather, what we perceive is a shadow of a higher reality. Prisoners trapped within this cave are led to believe, based on the limitations of their ability to perceive the world around them, that the shadows that they see in front of them are true reality. Plato argued that sensory knowledge is deceitful and incomplete. To truly understand reality, one must turn away from sensory experiences that engage the intellect, which can be painful, similar to the pain of a freed prisoner's initial struggle to see firelight. For Plato, there is a world of unchanging realities. There is a world of forms. This realm contains perfect and eternal concepts such as justice, beauty, and truth. As prisoners climb out of the cave and see the sun, they realize that the sun is the source of all light and fire, much like the form of good is the source of truth. Plato argued that higher realms of form are more important than the material world. Once one understands the truth, the illusion of the cave seems insignificant to them. Another important contributor to the domain of metaphysics is the philosopher René Descartes. In Meditations on First Philosophy, Descartes laid the groundwork for Cartesian Metaphysics, which centers around the idea of questioning everything you know, the world around you, your senses, and even your own existence, and identifying what remains when all certainty is stripped away. Descartes begins by questioning everything, asking whether he can even trust the evidence of his senses. He raises the dream hypothesis, wondering if what he experiences as reality may be no more than an illusion. As he states, "How often, asleep at night, am I convinced of such familiar events, when in fact I am lying undressed in bed?" To push his doubts even further, Descartes thought of the idea of an all-powerful deceiver, a sort of malicious evil genius who manipulates that of perceptions. This thought experiment of Descartes challenged his concept of the fabric of reality, leading him to question everything external, searching for something even more unquestionable. Through this doubt, Descartes identified a single, undeniable truth. I am, I exist. We often paraphrase this now as, I think, therefore I am. This phrase represents the cornerstone of Cartesian metaphysics. Our own existence as a thinking being is unquestionable. Descartes described the limitations of sensory knowledge through an example of melting wax. When it comes to melting wax, the shape, texture, and smell can change when melted, yet we understand that it is still wax. In this regard, Descartes tried to put forward the proposition that true understanding comes not from the senses itself, but from rational thought and intellect. From these meditations, Descartes made the conclusion that the mind is separate from the body. This concept has formulated what we know as dualism, which really turned out to be one of the first descriptions of consciousness that we have in philosophy. To To ground metaphysics with the concept of dualism, Descartes invoked the existence of a perfect and benevolent God. This God, being benevolent, was the benevolent guarantor of truth, bridging the gap between doubt and certainty. But Descartes and Plato, through their metaphysical ideas, put forth a skepticism for the evidence of the senses. To them, they were looking for higher truths that could be more accessible beyond reason and inquiry. Whereas Plato was looking toward a higher realm of forms where he focused on metaphysical structure of reality, Descartes looked inward, looking to find certainty in the certainty of the self. From the steadiness of the tick of a clock to the vastness of the universe, materialism has emerged as a modern metaphysical idea where matter and energy are all that exist. The key metaphysical idea of materialism is that the world is tangible, testable, and physical, a concept born from thinkers such as Aristotle, Thomas Hobbes, and Ayn Rand. Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, laid one of the earliest foundations for materialism. In metaphysics, he acknowledged that knowledge arises from sensory experiences. To Aristotle, the pursuit of understanding begins with observing the material world and combining it with search for causes, why things exist, and how they change. Centuries later, Thomas Hobbes expanded materialism through his mechanistic view of the universe. In his book Leviathan, he describes the reality as a collection of moving parts, likening human beings and society to machines. Here, Hobbes describes consciousness as arising from material actions within the brain. For him, the intangible but self-evident, like emotions and decisions, are merely the result of physical processes. And as he states, the universe is corporeal, and all that is real is material. In the 20th century, Ayn Rand revived materialist principles through her idea of objectivism. In Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, she describes perception as the foundation for all knowledge, emphasizing that knowledge is built upon that which we can observe and measure. The metaphysical idea of materialism has given rise to the scientific method, a systematic way of observing, hypothesizing, and testing. By focusing on the evidence of the senses and rejecting the idea of higher realms of existence or truth, materialism focuses on the observable universe. By the 17th and 18th centuries, the Enlightenment had ushered a new era of thought, an era driven by reason, empirical observation, and belief in progress. It was during this time that materialism, combined with the scientific method, emerged as the dominant metaphysical framework. Thinkers like Isaac Newton and John Locke believed that the universe operated according to discoverable laws, laws that could be uncovered through observation, experimentation, and rational inquiry. But while materialism has provided the foundation for the scientific innovation and explosion that we've experienced, it does have its limitations. Materialism focuses on what is observable, measurable, and physical. But as David Deutsch points out in his book, The Beginning of Infinity, reality extends beyond what we can directly observe. Instead, reality is defined by what our best explanations require to exist. For example, entities such as electrons and black holes were at one point just theoretical concepts, but now we consider them real entities because they are essential components for scientific explanations that we have for the physical phenomena that we observe. Deutsch takes this even further with his support for the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. He argues that the multiverse, an infinite collection of branching parallel universes, is our best explanation for quantum phenomena, such as inference that we observe in the double-slit experiment. To Deutsch, reality isn't just what we see or touch. It's a vast, infinite structure, much of which lies beyond our direct perception, but is real because it can explain patterns that we observe. The Enlightenment didn't just change how we view the universe, it fundamentally transformed our understanding of the nature of progress. Deutsch argued that progress is not merely accumulating more facts, but it's about creating better explanations. Explanations that are hard to vary without losing their validity. This view ties directly into the Enlightenment's legacy, that through reason, experimentation, and the rejection of dogma, we can make infinite progress in understanding and shaping our world. Unlike Plato, who believed in higher realms of truth, or Descartes, who sought absolute certainty, Deutsch believed that there are no ultimate limits to knowledge or progress. Reality is something that we continuously explore and explain, and through this process we are able to achieve a greater understanding and therefore, and as a consequence, mastery over the world around us. From Plato's higher realm of forms to Descartes' search for certainty to the materialist revolution of the Enlightenment, humanity has long grappled with the question, what is real? Thanks to the Enlightenment and the scientific method, we have achieved unprecedented progress by grounding our understanding in reason and observation. But as we are reminded, reality isn't just limited to what we directly observe through our senses. It's something that we explain, refine, and expand upon in an endless fashion. Metaphysics isn't just about asking the question, what exists? It's about understanding that reality is infinite, and that our understanding and knowledge of it is only at its beginning. Materialism has propelled us toward exceptional innovations and solutions to some of our biggest problems. But we are reminded that that progress never truly ends. As we continue to explore and explain reality, we embark in this journey that does have infinite potential. It is a journey that has begun long ago and continues to this day. I want to thank you all for watching this video essay today on metaphysics. I want to give reference to some of the books that have inspired me and the pieces of literature that have inspired me to make this video. First, I want to start out with Plato's Republic, which is where we get our description of the Allegory of the cave, which is really useful even as a metaphor for a lot of different components of our life where we are seeing illusions or not really understanding the world around them. I also want to give credit to Meditations on First Philosophy from René Descartes. This is where he talks about the concept of dualism, of separation from the mind and body, which helped formulate his look at metaphysics. I also want to give credit to Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, where he introduces the concept of materialism. There is Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, Ayn Rand, which really influenced me a lot, and I was inspired by her when I started learning about her materials about 15 years ago, and that was one of the books that was really hard for me to grasp, but really took me down the deep dive of metaphysics, epistemology, and philosophy. And then more recently, I've gotten into the work of David Deutsch and Beginning of Infinity, and that's where I introduce his concepts about infinite knowledge as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to subscribe to my channel and like this video, if you enjoy this material, I would greatly appreciate it. And I look forward to making more essays soon.